On this week's episode of Mama We Made It with DJ and Reg, we are talking about our experiences in a corporate context around competition, the nod at work, how we manage our mental health, and the reality that these systems aren't always healthy for us, and how we find a way to exist, thrive, and then exit ourselves so we can live our best lives. Please join us for an interesting conversation where we share a little bit about our journey to mental health and wellness. What's happening, man? Good morning to you. What's happening?
My guy, how are you?
I'm good. Have you ever been to the Hollywood Bowl?
When I lived in Orange County, I do believe I attended an event. There was a concert. My life sometimes is a blur. I can't tell you who it was.
Okay.
But I think I've been. I take it you have as well.
Yeah, recently.
Okay.
I was in LA in the same weekend as the ICE protests and all that went on with that, and the ICE peaceful protest, to be clear, was the Roots class of '95 experience at the Hollywood Bowl, and I am a proud member of the class of '95 out of B School, and so looking back over 30 years of my life has been crazy. B, man, the Roots, it was a crazy set, man. It was Roots open, did their probably 3 or 4 songs from Do You Want More, and then they were the band for a series of folks who dropped in '95. So Havoc came out and it did a Mobb Deep set where Black Thought played Prodigy, and, you know, to mimic and mirror that cadence, that dude's a masterful MC. But then Lil Kim came out, and I'm just going to skip that set. But, man, DJ Quick killed it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Red and Meth killed it. Goody Mob, Bone Thugs and Harmony. It was a phenomenal show, 3 hours nonstop, man. And so I am committing to myself and telling everybody I know, you got to catch our show at the Hollywood Bowl. It was spectacular. It was phenomenal.
Yeah, it's funny. Those artists you name, man, I'll tell anyone. I still think Bone Thugs Harmony, even though there's the whole Grammy piece, one of the most underrated rap groups.
Sure.
Cleveland probably has a lot to do with that.
Sure.
And then as far as a lyricist, I put Meth in my top 5, and I know I'm in the minority on that one, and I'm okay with that.
No, I give Meth a lot of respect, but Redman's above him for me. Like, Reggie Noble is a bad boy. And I give both those cats their props. Them niggas is eating right, exercising, and getting a whole lot of sleep because they were high octane. They bounced around the stage, and they both are cut up. Like, I was very impressed with how the years have treated them, or how they've treated the years. And I know they've both been through their journeys, but to see them now, man, in this season of their life, them cats are, to be studied, because whatever they eating and drinking or not drinking is working for them.
And it gets you ready for some of those gym skirmishes that may happen with Method Man. You heard about that one, right?
No.
You didn't?
No, what you mean?
Supposedly a bit of a gym skirmish with someone who was somehow, I think, connected to his daughter, and I don't want to get that wrong.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah.
Okay, no, I did not know
maybe
that.
Staten Island, maybe LA, I'm not sure. But
Okay.
But, he also done some acting, man. He's a talented cat.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Method's a talented cat.
For sure.
Love it.
For sure. Yeah, so I'm sharing that with you because I know you're a worldly dude, but I was blown away by the experience. We had a really good time. Man, sometimes I'm not even sure what we're talking about. What are we talking about?
Well, let me say this. It's funny, man, because you talk about this community, this kinship in the rap space centered around 1995.
Sure.
It's actually a really, really cogent segue into what we should talk about today. And when we think back at the Swoosh, we shared some incredible experiences there, but we also experienced what I would say is a competitive spirit. So when you think about those artists you're talking about, they're competing. There's record sales, there's Billboard ratings, all that kind of stuff they're competing. But they found a way to come together and celebrate, call it the end of their careers or when they're on new journeys. I feel a similar experience around the swoosh. Now that many of us have moved on, us brothers who had that same experience, that career experience,
Sure.
It feels like things have lightened now. The shoulders have dropped.
Amongst the brothers?
Amongst the brothers, yeah.
Okay.
Vulnerability may have set in as opposed to this kind of barrel-chested mentality at times we're conditioned to walk around with. So, had some conversations recently, very much connected, and I think that's a really interesting backdrop that you use around rap. We're competing, but I'm really competing with myself. We can still come together at the end of this and realize the impact we had as a collective,
Sure.
But we have to be intentional about it.
Sure.
So does that connect with you at all, any of that?
Yeah. First things first, welcome to Mama We Made It with DJ and Reg. That's DJ. I'm Reg. Thank y'all for joining the show. It does. So here's what I'd say. I was in that era a bit of an outlier in that Nike was a stop in my career. It was not the majority of my career. And so by the time I got there, cats had their sets already well established. And I was meeting people who had been lifelong, Nike cats. And, and I was at that time single dad, and I was much more focused on, I got a job to do, but when I'm gone, I'm gone. My observation just across my career, certainly there, but in general, is there are networks that I am blessed to be a part of that have been virtuous networks, and people have poured into me and I poured into people, and we have built collectively. And then there's been haters, like cats that you don't rock with and they don't rock with you. And oftentimes in a certainly competitive space, sometimes in a, scarcity of opportunity type space, like only one cat can get to the next ring, so to speak. And so it is curious to watch how folk build community. And so for me, I am fortunate, man, that as I think over the last 30 years, the people that are in my inner circle are still in my inner circle. The circle has grown a skosh, but it's still pretty like it was 30 years ago. And I have certainly been guilty in my career of just having my head down, like just really been in the weeds of my grind and, hey, what's up? The nod for sure. Like I see my people and I'm always engaged with my people, but in the flow, not always in the flow. And so there's definitely cats that I know that we know that I have, to your point, built better after, I hung up my cleats, so to speak, than I did in the midst. And it wasn't for any other reason than, life be lifing for everybody. And, I ain't take it personal when they didn't invite me to the reindeer games, and they shouldn't have taken it personally, in reverse. But you see some things, you see some dynamics, you see some people who play the game a little bit differently. And I think that, we know those cats, and giving them grace, I've grown into relationships with some cats that I didn't rock with once upon a time. But I do think as a survival skill in corporate America, in these systems where we are overwhelmingly underrepresented, you got to be really, really, really thoughtful and inclusive in how you build community, because the game isn't me versus DJ. It is, how do you and I play this game so that we both get across our finish line? So I think there's a lot to be unpacked in that conversation. I'm curious to hear your perspective. Yeah. So for you, bounced around different corporate stops, but you did a 25-year bid.
Man, don't put that on me. No, it's not. Don't put that on me. 19 and a half.
Oh, my bad. Early release, early parole.
I got it. So, Yeah, I'm 92 years old, man. Today. Today.
Reg, you gonna stop aging me, motherfucker. I keep telling you to stop putting these numbers on it. Check, I got it.
No, so dig it. Nike was my fifth corporate stop.
Okay.
Crazy enough. Automotive industry, consumer packaged goods, food and beverage. And then in 96, joined Nike, left in 2015. Yeah, man. I mean, I think in any, high performing organization, it's a function of trying to move forward, trying to advance, especially, a company like the Swoosh where there's so much opportunity, but there's so much competition. And once you sort of choose a lane from a functional area perspective, the road even narrows even more, right? So if you think about, I know I'm always being assessed. Performance, my professional network, who messes with you, who doesn't. And this real kind of feels superficial. Can you present? Do people want to listen to you? Like, that's huge, right?
Sure.
And then that fourth one, I think, is this what we're talking about, competitive spirit. And what I tried to do in my career was realize is that some of that is external. Somebody wants my job or somebody wants a job that I want. But no different than a golf analogy, I'm really competing against myself. I'm competing against my potential. I know what I'm capable of. I feel confident about what I'm capable of. Can I achieve it? And that's no different than going out playing around at 18 on your own, man. You want to shoot better than you did last time. I think you talked about giving grace, man, and I've learned to do that, but I've also learned to do that with myself. And if this is any moment of vulnerability, call it that. But I've also had to learn to be less harsh on myself. There have been times I know I've probably been the one to spark a competitive spirit in someone else. Because I am an only child, I am an individual. I don't require a heavy network. So I've had to kind of drop my shoulders a little bit. And at the end of my career, I felt much more comfortable doing that. But personally, it really wasn't until I knew Nike wasn't the end of my journey. I set my sights on my doctoral program, was fortunate enough to be offered an opportunity to stay and pursue that. I chose not to. But that's when the competitive spirit really shifted. Like, man, there's more in the tank. And you're not going to leave here just a Nike dude. But there are also folks who, no matter what you do, they'll perceive you as competition, and that's how they're going to operate. But I will say I had a really enlightening and inspiring conversation with someone who I worked with, honestly, since 1996. And we had a really, really great conversation at dinner. And I talked to you a little bit about that. And for me, it's not, there are different dimensions of this whole professional profile that we bring to bear. And I'm trying to have an appreciation for those that are unlike mine. I'm really trying to do that because my formula works for me, but I'm also trying to understand other formulas and have more of an appreciation for that as well. And, you and I talk about that a lot. You and I know that we come from different spaces. We come from different worlds.
Yeah.
But we also have an appreciation for each other.
Yeah.
So is this an experience that you've sort of learned to pay attention to as you move, or have you always, it's sort of that appreciation for other profiles, approaches, etc.?
I am fundamentally an introvert, hard as though that may be to
Yeah.
believe. And so, I'm terrible, and early in my career, really, really bad at the networking game. And I don't mean,
100%.
exchanging business cards, that kind of stuff, but just, hey, how you doing? My name is Reg. What's your name? That's just never been my thing. And so industry events, didn't really attend them. Conferences wasn't really always there. And so I recognized that for me, I was quieter around new folk than I was with folk that I knew. And so I leaned into being tight with folks that I knew and had come up with and built that way, right? And so for me, it was always building friends through my
Yeah.
friends. And that has always been a productive use of my time. Yeah, there are folks who I think or thought at the time were goofy and moved weirdly, and I try to avoid them. That now I look back and say I was being judgmental and harsh, and my version of goofy was their version of just doing their thing and being their own person. So I'm always good at sussing out energy, like in people who are actively detrimental to my health. I keep them away from me. But by and large, I have been a quiet observer in the game. And it's funny, man, I think about it now, looking back over my career, how many people I'm fortunate to meet that I don't stay in touch with. That
Wow.
for a
Okay.
season, we really, really, did a project, had a great time together. And then I
Hmm.
moved south and then west, and I've been on the West Coast now long enough that I just don't see cats that I used to see running up and down the streets of the tri-state area, and I randomly run into them like, man, 10 years have gone by since we talked. That shouldn't be. We should be in much more regular communication. So I think it's less for me about the competing or whether or not I give the nod at work, that type of thing. Like I see my people. I'm always down with my people, and I think everybody would tell you that I'm always connected to what's going on with the folks. But at the same time, I am an unknown. Like for as
Yeah.
many people as I know, a lot of people don't know me, and I'm fine with that. But I wish that I knew more of the people that I have met in my life and spent more time with them, because there's some fascinating people. To your point, sitting down at that dinner recently with cats I didn't know that well and hearing their story, I'm like, oh man, we wasted time
Yeah.
not getting a one-on-one sit down. And so I do encourage folk to be better at the, hey man, what you doing? Let's just me and you get a drink, as opposed to it being a group thing. Let's break bread. Let's try to catch lunch together. Let's find a way for us to have a meaningful one-on-one conversation, because that's how you get to know people, and that's how you collect and build community. In groups is great, but that one-on-one thing, man, I think goes a long way. And I shied away from that earlier in my life. As I get older, and maybe because I'm freer and my shoulders are dropped, and I hate to use the word, but 10 years retired, um, I'm a much more curious about folk and their journey cat than I was when I was grinding and running to after school pickup and all the other things. I just got more time to build with folk. And so I'm trying to be mindful about that. Is a key to kind of longevity, is how healthy and broad are your relationships, particularly, man, as we get in this phase where cats is dropping.
They're dropping.
Cats is
They're
dropping.
dropping. And we were together recently, and I tried to be as clear around that at the table as
Nobody
I
fucked with
could.
it. Nobody fucked with it. I appreciate you setting it
I
up.
won't say,
Nobody fucked with
hey
it.
man, look, and I won't say it fell on deaf ears, but uh, ugh. It's important to me though, man, because we can't take for granted that we show up and there's 12 cats the next time we show up. You and I have experienced loss recently, obviously, generations before us from a familiar perspective, but it's true. We're gonna try to make these plans once, and somebody's name's not gonna be on the list. I do want to kind of burrow into a little bit something you said before, man. I am definitely an introvert, but become more, I guess, gregarious when I'm comfortable, typically in tight circles. But then I need to disconnect. I don't think that served me well in my career necessarily. I relied on performance. I relied on presentation skills, like we talked about, competitive spirit, but I wasn't trying to build a professional network, man. And I think part of that is what I'm speaking to. The perception that built around me probably wasn't advantageous. I think folks who were assessing me would probably call that, you don't feel like you're all in. you're not kissing the ring. It's probably the extreme version of that. I've never been a ring kisser. I never will. So as much as I acknowledge that, Reg, I don't have any regrets around it. I do the same thing all over again because that wasn't conducive to mental health for me. It felt fake to me. If you couldn't recognize my performance, that's really on you, not me. Maybe this isn't the place for me. But at the same time, I understand that people need to know you on a level besides what you bring professionally. I also spent the crux of my Nike career not on campus. So the dynamic shifted oftentimes, and I just didn't see the importance in building those networks and relationships, even with folks who were higher up in the organization.
You just said something that's interesting to me. Your mental health suffered for it, or some words to that effect. Talk to me about that. Like, what's your awareness like for your mental health? At what point in time can you say, "Hey, man, this is having a negative impact on my mental health"? Like, what does that feel like for you? How do you make that assessment?
Pretty simple for me, man. As I've shared with you, I grew up 5 different states before 5th grade. New kid in class, oftentimes the only black kid in class. And very early on, I stopped trying to be accepted. That wasn't important to me. What was important to me is, can I flourish and be successful in this classroom, on this team, etc. And being the new face became a consistent dynamic and phenomenon for me. And I got more comfortable with it over time. So when it comes to a work environment for me, I know my mental health lies around that framework. I'm not trying to be assessed. I almost despise being assessed, if you really want the truth. And I actually have shared that with someone who I probably shouldn't have because I reported to them. But, you know, I didn't call these performance evaluations perfunctory, but just short of that. Do what you're going to do. Rate that how you need to rate that, but you see the numbers. I'm not here trying to fight for it. I want my people to be good, but whatever you feel like you need to do to hit that bell curve, you do what you need to do. But you know what I bring to the table. And that wasn't arrogance for me. What it was telling you was, I'm not trying to build a professional network that includes you and the other folks that sit in those rooms. So mental health for me was acknowledgement of that, but also being able to deal with the repercussions of that, which I know there were repercussions of that. There was a bookend, and fortunately that worked out for Nike and me at the same time. But the mental health for me was understanding what flourishing was for me. Even though I was really, before I was familiar with that concept, Reg, I was forming a framework around that. And since I was a kid, man, I love being alone. I do. I cherish my relationships and I value them heavily, but I also recharge alone. And I think sometimes that's perceived as DJ doesn't mess with us. So my mental health oftentimes is reconciling that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Not really, but I'm gonna go with it. It does, because I know you. What I was curious about is when your mental health isn't healthy.
It's typically when I feel like I'm being assessed. When this thing can turn performative.
But is that stress? Is that anxiety? Is that anger?
I think it
Is it
manifests,
defensiveness?
100% manifests in stress. It manifests in a lack of sleep. That's probably the biggest manifestation.
Sure.
Is I don't sleep well. Yeah. That's the biggest So you got to manage caffeine intake. You working out, what time, right? All that matters. Yeah. But one of the biggest manifestations is literally not sleeping well. And we know the older we get, that becomes extremely important, right?
For sure.
So yeah, the short answer to that is I definitely know it's stress, and I don't necessarily carry it the same way.
Yeah.
But what do you see in yourself? How about you?
It's a fair question, and that's why I ask, because as we talk about Mama, we made it, and yes, on the journey to flourishing, but sometimes it is a journey to survival, right? It is getting from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
For me, anxiety, a paralyzing sense of anxiety that nothing coming out of my pen, nothing coming out of my mouth is how I envision it in my head. And
Wow.
so I'm heavily self-critical along this path
Wow.
of I can't get the idea out the way I think it because the stressors are creating this perception of need of perfection. And I am, a needler as it relates to the language and how it gets brought together. So for me, it is paralyzing anxiety that I can't get out of my head onto paper, the thing that I can clearly see in my head. That's one. For a long time, it was sleep challenges, both sleep apnea, snoring, that kind of thing. And it was just, poor quality of sleep led to snacking in the middle of the night, like all
Mm.
these knock on effects. And for me, I don't mind being alone, but I am also a sharp tongued cat, right? And so I get short with people when I am stressed. And so, but for me, fundamentally, I recognize that nearly 30 years in corporate America in general wasn't good for me.
Wow.
Right? Like it did some things for me economically. It created some opportunity for me that I do not regret. But as an institution, I'm hypercritical of capitalism, right? I'm
Yeah.
hypercritical of my role in capitalist enterprises, and reconciling that is taking a lot of soul searching now on this side of the equation. And, I like the good life as much as the next person, but I recognize that all these systems require cheap labor from somewhere in the world to deliver the things that I'm looking for that I call creature comforts. And I don't feel good about that. And so the 30 years I spent inside of it, I feel some kind of way about, if I'm being really, really honest. And the relationships I built within that system give me some comfort, like the relationships that obviously you and I have that go beyond that. But a lot of cats that I met in those spaces, man, I met some amazing people along the journey of all of us just trying to make it, right? All of us just trying to get from one point to the other, and you don't feel like you part of a criminal enterprise in these systems, but you know, if you start to really, unpack it all and you think about what any one of these Fortune 1000 companies is really, really doing, you hard pressed to find someone whose carbon footprint or social responsibility framework doesn't need some work. And so for
That's true.
me, the stressor was more around an existential, perception of myself as being a dude with revolutionary zeal and community commitments and leaning into that as a mentor and a give back and all the things. But, still your 9 to 5 is, feeding the beast. And, that's hard to deal with at times. So I'm still kind of 10 years hence walking away from the game, trying to get to clarity on what it all means for me, what it all meant for me. Like I think a lot about legacy in terms of just the work that I did. None of it fucking mattered. None of it mattered. Like
Mm-hmm.
all those projects that you spent hours and stressing about,
Mm-hmm.
now who cares? Like, yes, some people learned some things. Yes, we delivered for some consumers. Yes, I was in pharma, so it contributed to quality of life drugs. Like all these things. Yeah, that's nice, but they none of it really, really matters. What they say, people will forget what you did, but they won't forget how you made them feel. And so, I'm mindful of the energy footprint behind me, and a lot of my look back on the 30 years in the game. Whatever it was what it was at the time, but it allowed me to build a life for my family. But I feel guilty about some of it, not because I was doing anything nefarious, but the critique of these large, multi-billion-dollar, multinational corporations is rarely a sexy one, and
Right.
I gotta live with my role in that.
I think it's a really interesting observation, and I don't disagree at all. It can become a really selfish journey. I think one of the things that happened is I started to put that whole financial liberation piece at the center of my journey at just the right time. Not the excitement about working for a brand or the experiences that it created in my life, or we're going to be in Hong Kong hanging out tomorrow, presenting, whatever it is. But it was about, this is all cool, but if my financial situation isn't significantly improved from a year ago, why am I doing all of this? That was in pursuit of just emotional liberation as well.
Sure.
So for me, back to your original question, when I feel like I can't manage my time, Reg, and my time is someone else's to manage, I don't perform well, and you probably see a different DJ.
Ain't nothing like owning your calendar.
Man, bruh. And it's probably one of the biggest ahas to me. And I knew that was important to me, but man, when I can wake up and be productive, but kind of decide when, I'm actually more productive. So that's a big one. If somebody's managing my calendar, hey man, next week you need to be in Paris. Next week sounds sexy. Maybe I don't want to be in Paris, right? And when you start to recenter the quality of life and the value you add, that might mean not being in Paris. So that's a big one. That's a really big one, to be more specific around when another side of DJ shows up.
Welcome, everybody, to Reg and DJ's therapy session. I won't have to pay my therapist this month. This is an ongoing conversation, man, because fortunately, blessedly, I'm healthier now than I've ever been in my life. And it is because my stressors are much lower, because I am much more intentional around my health and wellness, the health and wellness of my family and my community. And so the things and people that I'm surrounded by give me life. And happy to still be here doing it. I'm happy to be doing this with you. But this is a conversation we'll come back to, man, because it's an evergreen conversation. It is a context for all the ways we watched our parents grind and not understanding what that grind looked like, knowing that mama had a bad day here or daddy had a bad day there. And now as we sit here as elders, it's like, oh, man, you were heroic in the things that you were managing that I did not understand when I was a shorty. So to all of them, I say thank you, thank you, thank you. To the folks coming behind us, all I can say is that DJ said it, own your calendar, set your North Star, find that thing that defines what freedom and independence looks like for you, and share it with yourself on a regular basis, and other people will benefit.
True that.
Peace and blessings. This is Mama, We Made It. That's DJ. I'm Reg. Have a great day. Check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Like, rate us, review us, subscribe to what we're doing. Give us all the stars you can. We're trying to get better at this thing, one episode at a time. See you next time.
See you soon.